Hey, welcome back. Time for our inaugural episode. Yeah, this is the first one in a show we're going to showcase some of Orange County's fastest growing companies. Brought to you by EOS Worldwide and the man who knows them all, Will Christ. Hey, welcome.
Well, welcome to the first of our series on fast-growing companies in Orange County. Today we have a great show ahead of us with, we're going to introduce Hernan Ricaurte, the president of RICAURTE Precision, contract manufacturer in Orange County, one of the fastest-growing companies. Welcome, Hernan.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about your place over there.
Sure. So we are a contract manufacturer. We specialize in making custom parts for aerospace, space defense companies in highly regulated industries. We're based in Orange County. We've been growing significantly, a little over 20% year over year the past 3 years. I did not originally come from this industry. I was in healthcare. I lived in Japan for a little over 10 years in that. And so in around 2016, my father was thinking of selling the business. He'd been running it for a little over 25, 30 years. And I decided to give it a shot.
So that must have been a very interesting time to learn this whole new world of contract manufacturing.
Yes. So I came from healthcare. I had, a bit of business background under my belt. So it was a little bit different from maybe other family businesses in that my father basically just was eager to hand me the keys.
Yeah.
And but at the time, we didn't have all the certifications necessary for aerospace and defense. We didn't have all the cybersecurity requirements. We didn't have ITAR and other certificates. We didn't have a good, solid ERP system and structure. So that was really the focus, was processes, procedures, and really developing a culture.
So what I'm hearing is that this was a company that he ran, and he was using things all along, didn't feel the need to change.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
I mean, that's not unusual.
Right.
It was working for him.
Mm-hmm.
He put food on the table,
Correct.
roof over his head,
Right.
took care of you.
Right.
Well, and so it's all working.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes the time when there's a shift, like a new owner comes in, and now we have to take a look at how we're going to consolidate all the growth here and move forward.
Right. So like most small businesses, so at the time when I joined, we were about 23 people. There was a lot of tribal knowledge in the organization, which is a killer.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
You do develop silos and things like that. And so, it was my focus to try to share that knowledge through digital technologies, through implementing a little bit more automation, training our workforce, trying to hire and raise the bar.
And now, did that mean putting some processes together, simplifying, documenting processes?
Yes. So reading a lot of books.
Yeah.
EOS was one that was really helpful to me and a few members of the team initially, and really just not. I was very open and vulnerable, I guess, is what really helped us change. And we brought in a couple of advisors that are very familiar with the industry. We basically lifted our skirts and let them know what we were doing well, what we were not doing well, and and then try to develop the team real time.
Well, when you talk about being vulnerable, open, and honest, that had to begin with you and your team, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
What was that like?
Well, I think from the beginning, it was important for me to, identify who was willing to do the heavy lifting and change with the organization. That was one of the keys. The other was, learning the industry. And so joining organizations, joining, some nonprofits, some industry groups, and then getting the advisors on board. And like anything, Will, as you know, you get out of it as much as you put into it. And we really put our heart and souls into just being vulnerable, learning, and trying, to implement some things.
So give me some examples of significant changes that happened.
It probably started, one significant one was our ERP system. So we started with a paper-based ERP system, as many companies have, with the barcodes and things like that. Shockingly, there's still a lot of companies out there that are still using paper and paper ERP systems. So we went from paper to digital. And so that was a big bump because, again, it helps us drive accountability. It drives traceability. So that was a real eye-opener. And it also told us, who was really on board and who was not, so that we can make the decisions on who to move forward with and how to train people and how to get them to understand how important accountability is.
So when you went digital, then that helped you to articulate the processes.
Correct.
And once you have the processes, then you can measure people who are following the process.
Correct.
And one of the things we talk about in EOS is once you have your processes simplified and documented, then you want them followed by all. Right?
Correct.
Now, I have seen in many organizations where the founder began by hiring good people, became his friends, and they did take responsibility for various parts of the organization, but there wasn't any real consolidation. It was everybody doing their own thing, and as long as the bottom line results were there and you had happy customers, who cared? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. But, that creates silos, and basically our thing is trying to get our guys to be held accountable and to make sure that everyone is keeping score. And as I've heard from, a lot of people that have taught me a lot, even when we bowl, we're still keeping score. So, one of the other things that we worked on and the digital ERP system helped us was in, implementing dashboards and trying to make use of all the data that comes out of the machines that we use. So, machine monitoring systems have been really helpful for us. Digital quoting systems where we can interact real time with one another. So all these digital technologies are out there, and they were really helpful for us.
One of the things that I saw when you showed me the plant was that anybody on that floor could see the entire project. Tell me about that.
So that's really important for us. Again, it's the weakest link, right? You're only as strong as the weakest link, and for us, it's very important for our guys to speak up if they're struggling, if they're having issues, because once a document or a digital drawing or a project comes to your station, it's yours. You own it. So, if there was an issue with a program, if there was an issue with tooling, if there was an issue, a discrepancy with engineering or what have you, once it hits your station location, it's yours. So if you don't speak up, you own it. So, there's really, and not to be mean, but there's no excuse for not knowing, because digitally, with all the technologies that exist, the information is there. And it's your job to follow process procedures. And if we're missing something or you have an issue that's not covered by the process procedure, then speak up. So again, all the digital technology and everything is all visible to everybody on the floor.
So this process must have taken away the opportunity to point fingers.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So, I think people oftentimes are a little bit reluctant to speak up for a variety of reasons, right? I mean, you don't want to feel stupid. You don't want to be a tattletale or what have you. But culturally, I think, our guys realize that that's not the case, because no matter if there's an issue, it's never 100% one person's fault. We take responsibility for not providing appropriate training, perhaps. Or, there are things that can't be covered by, procedures and processes and things like that. So pointing the finger and things like that is something that you have to constantly remind your team. We have hands-on meetings, every week to share revenue, to share the wins, to share, some of the obstacles that we've come by. So just communicating and sharing is just so important in order to build that culture as well.
Communicating sharing and then sharing in the responsibility for it, in that it's no longer just a problem that we got to avoid. It becomes an issue that we can solve. And who's responsible for those issues? If it's not, first of all, the leadership team, and then someplace else in the organization, a team there who's working on that. And it's never I'm going to point fingers at somebody. It's pointing fingers if there's an issue at the issue.
Right.
Solving that issue.
Exactly.
So how do you solve issues?
How do we solve issues? We address them immediately. Immediately. So that, if we find an issue, we bring every person that had a touch point to that project or problem. To me, it's really surprising when I look at some organizations, or even look back in my career, where people don't address an issue and they let it, build up. Whenever we have an issue, we bring everyone in, and whether it's, personnel issue, or, the machine part issue or what have you, everyone comes in, and usually through communication, they figure it out on their own. Very rarely do we have to come up with something. And also, if there is an issue, everyone must come with their suggestions. So that's a must for us.
Well, one of the things that I found really helpful for many companies is before we start talking about solutions, we want to find out what's the real problem here, what's causing that issue to be here, and getting everybody around the table to focus on identifying the real problem or problems before we start talking about solutions.
Yeah, the root cause.
The root cause,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So in manufacturing, there's the 5 whys or the 7 whys, right?
Yes.
So I'm not religious, but we believe that religiously.
Yeah, good. Yes.
So, that's really important for us. So, not having a machinist background or an engineering background, I really relied on that, and I still do. So, and that's what we try to instill in our team as well, is to, 5 whys everywhere you go. Because you don't need to be an expert in everything, but we need to get to the root cause.
So talk about the 5 whys. How do you use that? Give me an example so that people can understand that you have to go deep sometimes to really root out that root cause.
Correct. Yeah. And especially with, sometimes new team members, they're getting accustomed to the culture. They still have a little bit of a shell, and they really don't believe that it's okay to scrap a part and it's okay to break a tool, because if we're pushing the limits in that, we're learning. And as long as we're learning through the process, it's okay. As long as we learn through the process. But sometimes, when we have new people that are, getting started, they have a little bit of a shell, they will have a tendency to knee-jerk and try to find excuses. And to our guys, that becomes very, very obvious very quickly. And yes, the 5 whys is part of that process. So, maybe we scrap a part. We get everyone together. Okay, what happened? The tool broke. Okay, why did the tool break? Because did you change the settings? Did you change the speeds and feeds? No, I didn't change speeds and feeds. Okay, so why do you think, and we just continue on, and maybe it's just a shift in the program or a shift in the actual part. But once you get to that 3rd, 4th why, 90% of the time, by the 3rd or 4th why, you've got the issue.
Yes.
And you're not, we try not to get emotional about it, and we just bring the team in, and just basically, we can't get to a situation where, don't do it because Hernan will get angry.
Right.
Or don't do it because the general manager will get angry.
Right.
Just don't do it because it's not the right thing to do. It's
That's
not
right.
helping the company.
It's not helping the company. It doesn't help us get to our goals. And that becomes very significant. Now, I want to go back to 2016, 2017. Were there people who just weren't able to make the change?
Yes, there were.
Well, tell me about that. That's got to be so painful. Because we're your dad's people, right?
Yeah, but I mean, again, that was basically the deal I made with my dad.
What was that?
Well, if I join, he's going to let me, make decisions. The first 6 months, I was quiet. I tried to observe and learn as much as possible. I was friendly with a smile and everything like that. try to get to feel for the guys and who, could potentially be committed and help us, do the heavy lifting, make the changes. But once we recognized that people were not willing to be accountable, to hold themselves accountable, then yes, we just let people go, unfortunately.
What we say is we make them available to the industry.
Yes. Yeah. And that's still the case for us. I mean, again, it's never personal, and maybe that person would just be a huge success somewhere else, but in our organization, it's not a right fit.
Yeah. What I've found is when the scorecard numbers are not hit, or when they're not participating in a way that's open, honest, and vulnerable, they're struggling even more than we are. And articulating that, sitting down and letting people recognize that they are not living a life that is optimal for them.
Correct.
And then creating the space for them without judgment to begin to look, to search, to find a place where they will be optimized.
Right. And you owe it to them to let them know if it's not working out as early as possible.
Yes.
Because it should, the worst thing you can do to an employee and to your company culture is to surprise an employee when it comes time to their evaluation.
So, there are many companies that I have seen who have annual reviews. How does that work for you?
We do annual reviews.
Yes.
We also try to do, and to be honest with you, we don't do it as diligently as we should, but we do 30, 60, 90 as well, which is extremely important because the earlier you address things, the better it is for everyone, including other members of the company. So yeah, we do 30, 60, 90, and we do annual reviews. We've grown quite a bit, Will, as you know. So we've gone from 23 employees to just under 40 during my tenure, and we've basically tripled the size of the company since I joined, with a strong EBITDA and bottom line. But that has been due to making changes with processes and procedures, driving the culture, really living and breathing the culture and believing in it, holding everyone accountable, driving transparency, traceability of the jobs that we're doing, things like that. But I've recognized that we need help. And so we just finally, and probably too long, but we hired a full-time human resources manager, very high-level individual that we're really excited for, because we need help, because the people are your secret sauce, right?
Yes. And now, to what degree would you say that your managers see themselves as also leaders?
Wow, that's a super good question. Super good question, because there is a big difference between a manager and a leader.
Yes.
Very big difference.
Yes.
And if anything, that's where we need to grow. So we need to strengthen our leadership team. We've got a couple of individuals that are very strong, but they need help. And then unfortunately, when you're growing, you have to choose, the low-hanging fruit in order to continue that growth.
Tell me, choose the low-hanging fruit.
Well, there's things that we want to implement. We've got tons and tons and tons of ideas.
Oh, yes.
Tons of things that we want to do, and
Yes.
a lot of things that we want to invest in, but you can't do everything at the same time.
Right. Okay.
So, and also, before we implement anything, we try to do a good job in planning before implementing, so that we can measure our ROI. And so, a lot is going on, and a lot of people are growing with the company. And some people, although they've been there for a while, maybe, leadership isn't for them, and that's okay too.
Right. Well, I mean, oh goodness. How many times have you heard the story about the salesman who was a crackerjack salesman, loved what he was doing? I mean, he was knocking it out of the park. He was great in core values, just loved everything about the company. And they said, "Congratulations.
Yeah.
We are going to make you the sales manager."
That's terrible. Yeah.
And he said, "Well, okay." And 6 months later, they're sitting there saying, you know, you have failed terribly. We're going to have to let you go. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, you know, so what we work with local colleges, you know, mainly, you know, community colleges, and we have, you know, recruited from some of the local state schools and UCs as well. And it's super important for us to match them up, pair them up with appropriate mentors.
Yes.
You know, and the mentor isn't necessarily the best machinist or the best programmer.
No.
But he's the individual, or she is the individual that is, if anything, more in touch with the culture. They have the courage to be vulnerable and to learn from a young student. So, you know, people that, you know, can communicate and what we see as, you know, potential as a mentor is who we match them up with. Because again, it's the worst thing you can do is, you know, go by what you just mentioned and have people paired up with the very best programmer, things like that, that maybe they just don't have the communication skills or the willingness or patience for others.
And it could be that they've just never learned.
Correct.
Never had the opportunity. Can I share a resource for you with regard to this leadership management?
Right.
A book, if you were working with me, a book that I would recommend is called How to Be a Great Boss by Gino Wickman and Renee Bohr. Very simple, 5 things that you do to be a great leader, 5 things you do to be a great manager. And that conversation helps people to see it's not rocket science. It's consistently following just these 5 things. And you do them, and you have a relationship with the people who are your direct reports, and you're leading and managing two separate things. But
Correct.
But that's for anybody who is looking at that leader management role, and you got to have both at every level. That's a wonderful resource.
Okay.
How to Be a Great Boss by Gino Wickman and Renee Bohr. So, talk to me a little bit about some of the obstacles that were hitting the ceiling kind of experiences.
Man, so there's so many.
Well, yes, but because what I'm going to ask is how did you overcome them?
Got it.
And that's what we're looking for those entrepreneurs out there starting or in mid-journey is obstacles, that's what we have in business.
Yeah.
And it's how we overcome them.
Yeah, I think initially there were tons, but one that probably stood out the most was we were taking on too many projects, and not all were the most appropriate for us. So that led to a lot of internal frustration, imbalance internally, difficulties in scheduling, things like that. And, you know, frustration with the customers because, you know, we were getting frustrated with them, you know, so it took a little bit of time implementing a little bit more cost accounting, extremely important, and no matter what type of business you're in, and identifying, you know, what we're good at and focusing on that.
Yes, what you're absolutely can be better than anybody else in the world at, right?
Correct.
And then what did that do?
Oh, it did wonders to the bottom line.
All right.
and relieved stress from the team.
Yes.
And helped us narrow down on what type of technologies we should be investing in.
Yes. And did that mean that you were turning down projects?
Correct. Yes. Learning how to say no.
Learning how to say no frees you up to fill that space with a bunch of yeses. Now, how did your sales team work with that?
So we're small. So, you know, we have a couple of people that help us out now, but initially it was me taking on that role. So, you know, the beauty of having a small company is that you can pivot quite quickly, and you can make big decisions and implement them, you know, without too much bureaucracy. So, it just started with me.
Well, all right. So when you folks begin to clarify what we would call your core focus, what is it, what is it that we really do here well, that we enjoy doing, we're equipped to do, and we believe that there's a market out there that's larger than than us.
Mm-hmm.
So was that part of the leadership team conversation or just you?
It was part of the leadership discussion, mainly driven by me, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then including the team.
Mm-hmm.
You had the, you were very generous with your time, and you stopped by a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking. For example, now, with the technologies that we've implemented, that all goes through the team.
And so here's the question I'm looking for an
Mhm.
answer to. Has there been, are there times when you as salesperson brought in projects and they said, Hernan, we love you, but that's not it?
So many times at the beginning.
Oh,
So many times at the beginning. But, and if anything, it wasn't such and it still happens.
yes.
It still happens. But again, it's my job to push the envelope and to challenge everybody.
You're the visionary, right? You can do anything, right? But it's the job of the leadership team to be able to say to the visionary, we love you, we really love you, but that's not what we all agreed to do.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. So that's a good point, because so I see my job as, pushing the envelope and challenging everybody,
Mhm.
but at the same time, with more structure,
Mhm.
we've got our annual plans and goals and metrics and things like that. So we do a lot better job, and I do a lot better job of not deviating from that as much.
Yes, but what I really appreciate about this is that you are open and vulnerable to them when you bring something that doesn't fit.
Correct. Yeah. At the end of the day. Yep.
That's powerful. That shift from the founder who has got it all in his hip pocket to the one who can be part of a team that can call the founder into following up on the agreements that we made. That is huge. Huge. Congratulations on that. That shows not only maturity on your part, but maturity on the whole team's part.
Right.
And
yeah. And again, it's ownership, right? 'Cause, I mean,
yes.
if I make a request or make a suggestion, I get no feedback, they own it.
And there's got to be a sense of we're sharing in this journey. Talk to me about that.
Well, it's very true. So again, what's important for us is communication. We've got, our values, and we share those, and we've got them, listed in the meeting rooms and things like that. And we do our evaluations based on our values. But, it's super important for us, us being, me and our leadership team, to be sharing the wins, losses, stresses, and everything like that with the rest of the team. Because the worst thing you can do is, as a leader or owner, what have you, totally stressed out with everyone else not really understanding why you're pissed off or stressed out. So sharing all of that and having everyone basically speak the same language and be on the same page is extremely important. Can it be done always 100% every time? No, but it is our job to share that information.
Yeah. And that's always in progress, because there's always new issues, new problems, new changes in the marketplace or regulations, and being able to talk about that rather than spend 2 hours at night worrying about it, but getting it out on the table and seeing it become simply an issue.
Right.
That's great. I just want to really commend you on that. I felt that when I was with your team, because they were all very much present, and they were all very willing to talk about what they were doing, and they all knew intimately what they were doing and how they were doing it. That's really great. That's wonderful. Well, I want to take a break here and come back and talk about the future.
Okay.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Hey, we just want to remind you that this program is brought to you by EOS Worldwide. The people that show you that if you hit a wall and your business has hit a ceiling, help is on the way. Tens of thousands of businesses like you with 10 to 250 employees have achieved rapid growth with this system. It's a people operating system. It helps you get unstuck. So when you run on EOS, everyone is working towards the same goal. One vision, one system, one team. If you want to be one with them, find out more at eosworldwide.com. That's eosworldwide.com for the entrepreneurial operating system. All right, now let's head back to our guest, Will Christ, and one of the fastest growing companies here. Can I ask a quick question before we launch into this thing here?
Sure.
Were you ever, I'm asking this to your guest here, was there ever any doubt in your mind that you took the right direction when you took over your dad's business? Did you ever say, what was I doing?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
But it's worked out, and it's grown well for you.
It is. It's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, but a lot of joy. And when you're making progress and you're seeing individuals within the organization, participate full-heartedly and grow, make more money, learn more, make more of an impact on the organization, then it's all worth it.
There you go. Well, we'll pick up from there.
All right, so let's talk about the next 3 to 5 years. Where do you want to go?
Well, we want to continue in the direction that we're going by investing more in the technology, so more on the digital side, more on the automation side. We are doing quite a bit with aerospace, space, defense, and medical. Again, we have to pivot a little bit. As there are uncertainties out there in the market. The economy with inflation, with tariffs, with a lot of things that get thrown at small companies especially, and also again, because we're working in regulated industries, there are a lot of requirements for us to meet, cybersecurity and others. So we're constantly making investments in those areas as well. What we want to do is double in size over the next 3 years, and consider maybe some acquisitions or fun stuff like that to see, if we can continue this trend. Again, because we're working with so many digital technologies and that, we think that if we were to expand, we would be able to implement a lot of what we're doing now in other organizations.
All right, so let me ask you a question. Thinking about that 3 year goal, if you were to ask everybody in your organization one at a time, where the company's headed in the next 3 years, would they all give the same answer?
No, not right now.
Because?
Because we haven't articulated that to the rest of the team yet. That's amongst the leadership team. We're still trying to navigate and articulate, our thoughts and plans. We are just so busy. If you go out there and ask anyone on the floor what our monthly revenue targets and are, everyone would be able to articulate that. What metrics and dashboards are specific to their department, they can articulate that. But as far as like where we're headed in 3 years, we have not shared that in detail with everybody.
Well, I'm wondering what would be on a scale of 1 to 10, your whole leadership team right now, how in sync are they?
Is this a therapy session?
No, this is just trying to. You are not alone in this. All right, and the people who are going to be listening to this, helping them to recognize this is part of the vulnerability that you're
and
talking
growing.
about. Yeah.
No. I would say on our team, there's 2 individuals that are really in sync, and 2 individuals that are coming along. And are they the right? Do we have the right team? Do we have the right individuals? I do think we do, and we need to add to that. And this HR individual, I think, will be a strong supporter and partner in that.
All right. And so now, when you think about that 3-year double in the growth, what are the constraints that you see?
People.
People.
Yes. People and cash flow.
All right. So talk about the people part.
So, in specific to our industry, contract manufacturing and aerospace, you talk to different people, talk to industry organizations and things like that. Everyone's talking about, oh, there aren't enough machinists, there aren't enough programmers and things. I don't know if that's really the case. I think there's, again, I don't mean to sound like a total jerk, but I think there's too much mediocrity. I think there are too many companies out there, and that's changing. My understanding is about 1%. So right now, if you look at the NAICS codes, there are, I believe, around 17,000 precision machining companies in the U.S., and probably half of those are in California.
Really?
We have just a huge number, especially in Southern California, of small organizations. So in Santa Ana, where we are, there are probably about 200.
Wow, 200.
Yeah, and too many. Because, again, I mean, and nothing against them, but it's, again, regulated industries, a lot of unregulated industries are sending stuff overseas. That's not really going to change no matter, what we do, because, economies end up, will shift towards efficiency anyway. I think there's going to be continued closing, consolidation, and PE firms coming in to purchase companies. And that's just the nature of business, right? The nature of economy. So, there are going to be far fewer companies out there. And that's why we need to continue to invest and continue to focus on the niche, and focus on what we do really, really well and be the best at it.
So back to your constraint for your growth, you said people.
Yeah.
How are there not people out there?
Yes.
Okay.
There are people out there. That's why, Will, you're good. So that's why we decided to bring in an HR professional so that this individual can help us become the best and most attractive precision machining company for future employees, for future machinists, programmers, quality inspectors, quality assurance people, and things like that. And then, help us not only in aggressively recruiting, but to make our onboarding process the best in the world, to make our training the best in the world, and to make sure that we continue to drive everything that we're doing right now relative to culture and processes and procedures, and to continue that continuous improvement.
Yeah. All right. Now, in the labor market right now, define for me, would you be recruiting from every place in the United States, only, Western states, only Southern California?
No, we've been recruiting. No, we've got people, we recruited one of our programs from Canada. We tried to get another individual from Georgia. So we with the right engineers, programmers, and even setup machinists, we will move them across the country and take care of them. As long as they have the right fit and they want to grow, they want to challenge themselves, the sky's the limit.
So when you're hiring, when you say the right fit, does that mean they fit your core values?
Correct.
All right, so you fit your core values, and then right seat means they can do the 5 things that you've got in that box for them to do, right?
Correct.
And how successful is your recruiting right now?
It's okay. Well, because again, we just don't have the bandwidth and the time necessary to dedicate to really focused recruiting activities, and the onboarding and the mentoring and all of that. We're doing our best, but not enough. So we need to really raise the bar there. And again, what happens as well is that like I mentioned a moment ago, there's 200 or so precision machining companies in Santa Ana. We get people walking in, applying for jobs every week, but these poor people, for the most part, I think have sort of rotted with the organizations they are in.
Rotted with the organizations.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So and again, I don't mean to sound like a jerk, but you know, if you're in an environment where accountability isn't that important, discipline is not that important, process procedure is not that important, you know, traceability, transparency, vulnerability, all that's not that important, then it's not of benefit to us, to our team members, or to that individual, because they're just going to struggle.
So, it's okay if I ask you a tough question?
by now, yes.
Okay. So, do you think that there are companies out there, contract manufacturing companies in Southern California, maybe even in Santa Ana, that want to approach the standards that you have, but just don't know how?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
But they really want to.
Really want to? I don't know. I can't speak for others. I really don't know. I think there are a handful of companies in Santa Ana that are like ours that are doing well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have some friends there that are doing really impressive stuff. Some of them direct competition, some of them slightly different, doing things in different ways. But I don't know. I really don't know.
Would it be helpful if a handful of those companies did become better?
Oh, absolutely. It helps all of us. It raises the bar.
So maybe that's something you and I can talk about, identifying some places and ask.
Yeah.
Is this something that you want to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. I
Because
agree.
it's obvious you've gone through it, and you're talking about the kind of obstacles that you overcame, the successes that you had. So it's possible
Absolutely.
if somebody wants to. So, all right. So what, as we sum up here, talk about not just contract manufacturing, but talk about entrepreneurs, because that's what you became, right? Did you know you were becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Okay. So what kinds of message, if you had which you do have right now with that microphone in front of you, if you did have a way to speak with young entrepreneurs midway, what would you tell them?
Be vulnerable, you know, and again, and that doesn't mean like just, you know, share all of your fears and everything with everyone you come in contact with, but pick a couple of people, knowledgeable, trustworthy people, that have been there, you know, and you know, you get to be around my age, and you know, I'm willing to take the time to, you know, to provide input, and there's a lot of people a lot more capable and knowledgeable than me that are out there that are willing to share. So, you know, I think getting help, asking for help is good.
So did I hear that you'd be open to people talking to you and asking you?
Sure.
So how do they get in touch with you?
Email, Hernan, Hernan, at RICAURTEPrecision.com, RICAURTE, precision.com, or you can visit us online on our website as well.
Yeah, and I would encourage anybody who's in any place with the internet, but we're particularly looking at people in Orange County and entrepreneurs who want to learn how to make it through what is at this time a kind of a, I wouldn't say chaotic, but it's certainly a fast-changing place, huh?
Correct.
Right?
Yes, you got to be ready to pivot. Yes.
You got to be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be flexible and recognize that those problems are not things that you point fingers at. Those problems are issues that you and your team solve.
Problems are opportunities.
Absolutely.
And they absolutely are, because when you've got a bunch of people panicking, the level-headed are the ones that are going to find the light.
Yes. And when you get down and begin to digging around to find that root cause, when you get the root cause and you come up with the solutions, it makes that go away forever.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Hernan. This has been just so exciting and interesting. I'm so glad that you're with us, and I would encourage others to give Hernan a call. Find a way to spend some time with him, because he is an icon here in Orange County because of what he's done to take where his father had a great company, to take it into the 21st century and beyond.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
Well, there you have it. One more reason to tune in each and every time to hear from some of Orange County's fastest growing companies. Brought to you by EOS Worldwide. Streamed over our station here, OC Talk Radio, Orange County's only community radio station. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.